And we want to clearly explain the reasoning behind each point, how each point contributes to our team's argument. We also want to anticipate rebuttal. So we're not rebutting any arguments yet, but we are preparing for what we think the opposing team might say. So we just want to address them briefly, and you'll see that in the speech, in the sample speech for the first speaker. And you also need to show that you understand the opposing side's perspective. So you need to show that you're not just coming at it from your point of view, you're also showing that you've thought about how the other team might be addressing the issue, so that you can say, well, they might say this, but as you can see, we've said this and our side makes more sense. We've got the better argument. And finally, you need to conclude your speech. So summarize the main points and restate your thesis statement, or your point of view on the issue. Excuse me. And of course, we need to reinforce the importance of our team's position and why it is the most logical and why it's the best point of view. Why is our point of view going to have a better outcome than the other teams? And an important technique to include in our speech, and this is for everybody, each speaker, is we need to make sure that we're signposting. And what signposting means is, you know how when you're driving down the road and you see the street signs, the big signs on the road, they've got the big signs, big letters, everyone can see it. It's very, very obvious. So in a speech, signposting is just making sure that each section of our speech is very obviously separated. So we'll say things like firstly, or secondly, or in conclusion. So the audience all knows that we've got, so the audience knows that we've moved on to a new issue. We're not talking about this one anymore. We're talking about the next issue. The next issue, here's our summary. So everybody knows what we're talking about. And of course, time management. You may have a lot to say, but you need to make sure that you get it all done in the time you've been given. So I've got an example speech for the first speaker. So this is what you should be aiming to, this is the sort of speech that you should be aiming to write and present in your debates. Yeah, Rio, can you pass me the, can you assign me the host, please?
I don't know how to pass you.
If you click on the participants button, and then just go to Teacher Michael, and when you hover your mouse over my name, you should see a little box with 3 dots in it. Just click on that, and it should have an option that says Assign Host.
I don't know, but I'm not the host now. Cabana is the host.
Ah, Miss Duck came back. Okay. So can I please have Tom, can I get you to read this this example speech, please?
Yes.
Excellent. Now, just before we get started with the reading of the speeches, as we've mentioned before, a debate is a very formal type of conversation. So they use them in Parliament so that the government can try and come to a solution about the issues of the country. We use them, or you can have debate competitions. We use them in public so that we can, again, address issues in the community. So the language used in these speeches is quite formal English. So if there are any words that you're struggling with, just let me know. I'll teach you how to pronounce them. So off you go when you're ready, Tom.
Teacher, do I have to read all of them?
Yes, this is one full speech.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges, and respect opponents, I stand before you today as the first speaker of the affirmative team to argue in favor of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources would be significantly increased. We firmly believe that this step is
Crucial.
crucial in
Yep.
addressing the pressing challenges posed by climate change and
Securing.
securing a sustainable future for generations to come. Let me now present our arguments in support of this proposition. Firstly, it is undeniable that the world is facing a climate crisis of
Very good. Unprecedented.
unprecedented proportion.
Good.
Greenhouse gas emissions from the fossil fuels has led to rising global temperatures, extreme weather events, and loss of biodiversity by significantly increasing the use of renewable energy sources such as solar, wind, and hydraulic electric power. We can sustainably reuse our carbon dioxide footprints and
Curb.
the adverse impacts of climate change. Transitioning to renewable is not only environmentally responsible, but also economically advantageous, as it opens doors in innovations and jobs creating in the rapidly expanding green energy sector. Secondly, the reliance on finite fossil fuels poses security and geopolitical risks. Many nations are heavily dependent on fossil fuels imports, which can lead to volatile energy prices, volatile energy prices, and geopolitical tensions. By harnessing renewable energy resources that are abundantly available within our borders, we can enhance energy independence and reduce vulnerability to external energy supply disruptions. This, in turn, fosters our more stable and secure global energy landscapes, promoting international cooperation and peace. Thirdly, increased use of renewable energy sources will lead to improved public health outcomes. Fossil fuels are associated with air pollution, which negatively impacts respiratory health and exacerbates cardiovascular disease. By transitioning to cleaner energy alternatives, we can significantly reduce air pollution levels, leading to healthier communities and lower healthcare costs. Additionally, new renewable energy technologies are less water intense than conventional power plants. Conserving this perceived
Precious.
resource and ensuring its availability for essential needs. In anticipation of counter-arguments, we recognize that some may claim the renewable energy sources are not as reliable or cost-effective as fossil fuels. However, advancements in technology have significantly improved the efficiency and affordability of renewables. Additionally, investing in renewable energy now will lead to long-term cost savings, as the costs associated with environment degradation and climate change impacts will be avoided. In conclusions, increasing the use of renewable energy sources is not just an option, but a necessary in the face of global climate crisis. By embracing clean, sustainable energy, we can safeguard our planet, strengthen energy security, and promote public health. The benefits of transitions to renewable energy are vast and far-reaching, and it is our moral and practical duty to take decisive action. The time to act is now, and I urge you to support this motion to pave the way for a brighter and sustainable future. Thank you.
Very good, Tom. Thank you very much. So, as we see there were several issues presented. We had a preparation for counter-arguments. We had a good introduction, and everything was signposted. So it was clear when we were talking about a different issue, and everything was summed up nicely in the conclusion. Good job, Tom. Thank you. Next up, we'll have our first opposition speaker, and they'll be looking for things like, again, an introduction. You want to greet the audience, the judges, and the opposing team. You want to restate the topic of the debate, and you want to state your team's position as being against the motion. So we are defining the motion. So this time we want to give our definition as the opposing team. We want to give our definition of the topic and the motion so that people can understand our point of view. And then, of course, we want to highlight any potential misconceptions, things that people think they know but are actually wrong about the motion. So this gives us a great chance to redefine the topic and set our point of view for the argument as the opposing team. Next, we're looking for something called the burden of proof. Now, have you, I don't know if you guys get any shows like Law and Order or any like police crime shows on TV, but something that the police have to do whenever they charge somebody is it's up to them to prove that the person did it. So they have to prove the person's guilty. The person being charged does not have to prove that they're innocent. They're just assumed to be innocent. So in the same way with the debate, it's up to the proposition team to prove that they are right. We don't have to prove, or the opposition team doesn't have to prove, well, they do have to try and weaken the opposition's or the proposition's case, but it's up to the proposition team to prove that they are right about the topic. And then it's our job to weaken their case as the opposition. So we need to explain that the burden of proof lies with the affirmative team, as they have the responsibility to present a strong case in favor of the motion. You need to emphasize that the negative team's role is to challenge the affirmative team's arguments and demonstrate why their case is not compelling enough to accept the motion. So we've basically got to prove, not that we're right, but we've basically got to prove why the proposition team is wrong in a debate. So we need to present our main arguments and rebuttals. So 3 to 4 main arguments that challenge the points made by the affirmative team. Each argument, again, should be well researched, supported by evidence. And we want a clear explanation why the reason behind each argument weakens the proposition team's case. Next, we want to start constructing our counter case. So we need to come up with a different perspective or a different point of view that supports the negative team's position. And we need to offer good reasons that will cause everybody to reject the affirmative team's claims. We need to prepare rebuttals. So we need to anticipate how the affirmative team is going to say, no, they're wrong, we're right. And we need to offer counter arguments to be able to stop them from saying that we're wrong. And then we need to address these potential counter arguments to show that we've thought about the point of view of the proposition team. Again, we need to conclude. So summarize the main arguments presented by the negative team. And we need to say again why our team's position, or what our team's position is, and why the affirmative team has not proved why they are right. Okay, Andrew, can I get you to read this example speech, please?
Okay, ladies and gentlemen, distinguished judges and esteemed opponents, as the first speaker of the negative team, I rise to address the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. While we acknowledge the importance of sustainable energy solution, we firmly believe that the motion put forth the affirmative team is not. Allow me to present our arguments against this proposition. Firstly, it is essential to recognize that while renewable energy sources have their merits, they cannot entirely replace fossil fuel in the immediate future. Their intermittency and unpredictability of renewable sources like solar and wind power pose significant challenges to energy stability, unlike traditional power plants, which can provide a steady and reliable energy supplies. Renewable are subject to weather and condition and require expensive energy storage system to mitigate fluctuations until we develop more efficient and cost-effective storage technologies. Solely relying on renewable will risk compromising our energy grid reliability. Secondly, the transition to renewable energy is a massive scale necessitates substantial upfront investments, while a proponent of the motion argue for long-term cost benefits. The immediate financial burden cannot be ignored. Many nations, especially developed ones, may struggle to afford the initial cost of implementing renewable infrastructure. These costs will lead to higher energy prices for consumers, potentially burdening low-income households and harming economic growth. In contrast, fossil fuel offer a more affordable and access energy option, particularly for regions heavily reliant on coal or oil. Furthermore, increasing the use of renewable energy sources can have unintended environmental consequences. The production and disposal of renewable technologies such as solar panels and wind turbines involve the use of rare material and chemicals that can harm ecosystem. Additionally, large-scale wind and solar projects can lead to habitat disruption and land use conflicts. As we advocate for sustainability, it is essential to consider the full environmental impact of our energy choices, not just in terms of greenhouse gas emissions. Lastly, the pursuit of renewable energy should not overshadow the need to invest in clean technology that can complement existing energy sources. Advances in clean coals and natural gas technology combined with carbon capture and storage show promising potential to reduce emission while maintaining energy reliability. Neglecting these transitional technology could hinder our ability to effectively address climate change while we wait for renewable energy to reach its full potential. In conclusion, we, the negative team, recognize the significance of renewable energy in source of global fight against climate change. However, we firmly contend that harshly and a conclusive push toward renewable may have adverse effects on energy reliability, economic growth, and the environment. Our stance is not to dismiss the importance of renewable, but to advocate for a more balanced approach, one that integrates cleaner technologies and consider the practical challenges we face in the present. We urge you to reject the motion and consider a more comprehensive and sustainable energy strategy. Thank you.
Very well done, Andrew. Now, before we move on to the second proposition speaker, a little tip that I'd like to offer you guys that will make learning to debate 1,000 times easier. Make sure you've got a good English dictionary. Make sure you've got a good English thesaurus and use a service like Google Translate so that any of the words that you either don't understand or you struggle to pronounce, websites like Google, Google Translate, they have the options where you can have Google Translate pronounce the word for you and teach you to pronounce it correctly. But so far, you guys are doing great. So I'll read this next speech. So up to the second proposition speaker. Again, we need an introduction. We need to greet the audience and acknowledge the opposing team and the judges. We need to recap the motion and the team's position on the topic. And we need to just quickly summarize the main arguments presented by the first member of our team. Now we need to reinforce and expand the arguments. So again, we need to remind everyone what those arguments were. We need to provide some additional evidence and examples to strengthen the team's position. And we need to clarify any points that may have been challenged by the negative team in the previous speeches. So anything that the first opposition challenged, we just need to set everybody right and go, no, actually, this is what we meant. What they said we meant was wrong. We need to address counter arguments. So any counter arguments raised by the first negative speaker, we need to address those. We need to refute their points with reasoned arguments and supporting evidence. So we need to be able to say, no, they've got our argument wrong. And what they've said is wrong. Here's why. Here's our evidence. And we need to show the problems and the flaws in the negative team's reasoning and to reaffirm the superiority of our own case. So again, why is our case stronger? Why are our arguments better? Why is our point of view the right one? We need to present new evidence and examples. So we need to introduce new evidence that supports our team's position and our arguments. We need to, of course, ensure that the evidence is credible and relevant to the debate topic. And we need to connect the new evidence to the existing arguments to create a more comprehensive case. So we had a lesson on this where we work as a team with arguments. It's not just three separate people. And we want to make sure that we are really working together so that we've got this already solid base with the first speaker. Then we present new evidence. It just gets stronger and stronger and stronger and stronger because it's all working together. It's not just I say this, you say this different thing, and then they say this other different thing. We need to talk about the implications of accepting our position. So what are the good things that will happen if you agree with our motion, if you agree with our point of view? We need to talk about that. We also need to highlight the potential benefits of agreeing with the motion. So I've written this out to talk about the topic that we've got in these speeches, but we just need to talk about the good reasons or what are the good things that can happen if you agree with our motion. And we need to emphasize the positive impact of agreeing with the motion again. So what are the good things that can happen? Again, we need to prepare rebuttals. So anticipate more counter arguments from the second negative speaker. And we need to show that our team has considered their viewpoint and we're ready to respond to them effectively. So we're not just going into this debate with we're right, that's all that matters. We need to be able to say we are right and here's why, and they are wrong and here's why. Anything we say, we need to be able to back up and prove. Again, time management, that's always super important. And in our conclusion, again, we need to summarize the key points, reiterate our team's stance, and encourage the audience and the judges to support us and believe the motion. My mouth gets worn out when I talk a lot. Okay. So a second proposition speech might go something like this. Ladies and gentlemen, respected judges and worthy opponents. As the second speaker of the affirmative team, I stand proudly to reiterate and further strengthen our case in favor of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. Recapping the arguments put forth by our first speaker, we firmly established that the world faces an urgent climate crisis that demands immediate action. Renewable energy sources offer a viable solution to mitigate the impact of climate change and transition towards a sustainable future. Allow me to reinforce our key arguments and respond to the counter arguments presented by the negative team. So as was mentioned in the first proposition speech, we need to make sure that we are signposting. So everything we talk about needs to be so obviously labeled that everybody knows what we're talking about, everybody knows what we're doing. Firstly, our reliance on fossil fuels perpetuates. Sorry, I got mixed up with my paragraphs there. Our reliance on fossil fuels perpetuates carbon emissions and exacerbates global warming. The evidence is clear and undeniable. Greenhouse gas emissions are causing irreparable harm to our planet. Increasing the use of renewable energy sources, such as solar, wind, and hydroelectric power, we will significantly reduce carbon emissions and combat the dire consequences of climate change. We must prioritize the health of our environment and future generations over the short-term convenience of fossil fuels. In response to the negative team's claim that, In response to the negative team's claims that renewables are unreliable, we acknowledge that while intermittent energy generation can pose challenges, advancements in energy storage technologies are rapidly addressing this concern. Innovations like grid-scale batteries and pumping hydro storage enhance the stability and reliability of renewable energy supply, ensuring a consistent power source for all our energy needs. Moreover, grid modernization and smart energy management systems enable us to effectively integrate renewables into our existing energy structure. Secondly, the financial investment required to transition to renewable energy is an investment in our future. Yes, the initial costs can be significant, but the long-term benefits far outweigh them. Studies consistently show that the economic advantages of renewable energy adoption, such as reduced healthcare costs, job creation, and energy savings, offsets the upfront expense. We must recognize the economic opportunities inherent in renewable technologies and seize the chance to be at the forefront of green energy revolution. Addressing the negative team's concern about rare metals used in renewable technology production, we acknowledge that responsible sourcing and recycling practices are essential. However, we must not overlook the severe environmental degradation caused by fossil fuel extraction. Oil spills, deforestation, and air pollution are just a few examples of the devastating consequences of our current energy sources. Embracing renewables is a step towards cleaner production and a more sustainable world. Lastly, we appreciate the importance of transitioning technologies, but we cannot afford to delay decisive action. While advancements in clear coal and natural gas are valuable, they still contribute to greenhouse gas emissions. We must prioritize a rapid transition to renewable energy sources while exploring ways to make these transitional technologies cleaner and more efficient. In conclusion, The affirmative team firmly believes that significantly increasing the use of renewable energy sources is not just a matter of choice, it is an obligation to safeguard our planet and future generations. The time for decisive action is now. By embracing renewable energy, we can combat climate change, enhance energy reliability, create economic opportunities, and protect our environment. We urge the audience and esteemed judges to support the affirmative team's position and pave the way for a brighter and sustainable future. Thank you. So, in that second speech there, the important thing that I want to point out is this part here. So there's never, ever, ever an absolutely perfect argument that has no rebuttals to it. So it's important to acknowledge that there can be problems with your argument and to find a solution for it. So if you can find a solution for the problem, then it's not really a problem anymore, but we still have to mention it because it won't come across very good if it's like, yep, we're absolutely right. There's nothing wrong with our point of view. We don't need to think about this any further. The judges are just going to look at you and go, yeah, they haven't thought about this very well. You're hungry again, Tom. Goodness. Okay. Next up, we move to the second opposition speaker. Stella too, but she's hungry. Oh, hungry with that capital N. So second opposition speaker. We need to make sure that we, with the introduction, we need to make sure we greet the audience, judges, and acknowledge the opposing team. We need to reiterate the motion and our team's negative viewpoint towards the motion or towards the topic. And we need to provide a brief summary of the arguments presented by the first negative speaker. Again, we need to reinforce and expand arguments. So we need to remind the audience what the team's main, goodness. We need to remind the audience what our team's main arguments are. How have you not eaten breakfast yet, Katie? So we also need to offer reasoned refutations and evidence to demonstrate the weakness in their claims. So we need to have reasons why the affirmative team is wrong, and those, we need to think about those reasons and provide evidence to demonstrate how their claims are wrong. We also need to highlight any inconsistencies or lack of evidence in the affirmative team's case. So this is where you guys get to be, the opposition team gets to be a bit like a shark in the water. We need to make sure that we are looking for anything wrong with the proposition team's case, and we need to be ready to pounce on it. We need to introduce more evidence and examples so that we can make our team's case even stronger. We need to ensure, again, the evidence is credible and relevant to the topic, and we need to connect the new evidence to the existing arguments to create a more comprehensive and stronger case. Just like the proposition team, we need to talk about the impact and the significance of this debate topic. So we need to explain the potential consequences of accepting the affirmative team's position. So if we were to, in this case, to adopt more natural energy sources, what are the bad things that could happen if we were to adopt more renewable energy sources? We need to highlight the challenges and any unintended consequences. So things that could go wrong, but we don't mean them to go wrong. What can happen there? And finally, we need to emphasize the risks and the uncertainties associated with accepting their motion. So what could go wrong? Again, we need to prepare rebuttals. So what are the potential counter arguments what are the counter arguments that the second affirmative speaker raised? And we need to prepare for those. And we need to show that our team has considered the proposition team's viewpoints and that they're ready to respond effectively. Of course, we need to summarize the key points made, reiterate that our team is against the motion, and we need to encourage the audience and the judges to reject the affirmative team's position. John, I think you've been hanging out to read a speech for a while, so do you want to take this one?
Thanks. I would so like to read because I'm just sitting there doing nothing but hear you teach. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judge and horrible opponents, as the second speaker of the negative team, I rise to reinforce our arguments against the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. Recapping the arguments presented by our first speaker, we have emphasized the practical challenges and potential drawbacks of solely relying on renewable energy. We firmly contend that while renewable energy is a vital component of our energy future, it cannot be a solution to address the complex global energy needs. Allow me to further strengthen our case and address the arguments put forth by the affirmative team. The affirmative team asserts that increasing the use of renewable energy will significantly reduce carbon emissions and combat climate change. While we share the common goal of environmental sustainability, we believe that an exclusive focus on renewables overlooks the broader picture. Transitioning away from fossil fuels requires a balanced approach that considers all available options, including cleaner technologies like natural gas and nuclear energy. By combining a diverse range of energy sources, we can achieve greater emissions reductions without jeopardizing energy security. In response to the affirmative teams that claim the renewable energy technologies are becoming more reliable, we acknowledge the progress made in this field. However, it is crucial to recognize that challenge still persists, especially in the context of large-scale energy demand. The intermittent nature of renewables requires significant investments in energy storage and grid infrastructure. These costs are often overlooked and can strain national budgets, potentially leading to higher energy prices for consumers.
You're up to the paragraph at the top here, John. Furthermore,
the affirmative team argues that renewable energy will lead to job creation and economic growth. While it is true that the renewable energy sector has been growth, we must also consider the potential negative impact on traditional energy industries. Heavy reliance on renewables could lead to job losses in fossil fuel deployment regions, affecting livelihoods and communities. We must strike a balance between embracing clean energy and supporting the transitions of workers in affected industries. Addressing the affirmative team concern about environmental consequences, we acknowledge the importance of responsible energy production. However, the assertion that renewables are entirely free of environmental impact is misleading. The production and disposal of renewable technologies also generate waste and utilize resources that require careful management and consideration. In conclusion, the negative team firmly believes that a balanced energy strategy is necessary to address our global energy challenges. While renewable energy is a critical component of the future, it cannot be implemented in isolation. We must carefully weigh the benefits and drawbacks of all sustainable energy future. We urge the audiences and esteemed judge to reject the motion and support our comprehensive energy vision. Thank you.
Very good job, John. Thank you very much. So now we're up to the closing stages of the debate. So we've got our third proposition speaker here. Yes, I just ate grapes. They were very delicious.
Again.
No, you did very good, John. Thank you. Okay, so now we're up to the final part of the debate now, the third and final speakers. So again, we need a good introduction. We can see here the same, most of the same points of view as every other introduction their team has had. We need to reinforce and summarize arguments. So we need to reiterate the main arguments presented by the previous speakers. Provide a concise summary of the evidence and examples that support each argument. And we need to emphasize the coherence and the strength of the affirmative team's case. So essentially what that means is that we need to show how well we've worked together as a team and how strong a case we've been able to create. We need to address the negative team's arguments. So we need to address the arguments made by the negative team in their speeches and offer clear rebuttals to refute the negative team's points, and to demonstrate how the affirmative team's case remains strong despite the challenges that were raised by the other team. So yeah, we just need to really finalize just how strong that our case has been. We need to highlight our team's advantage. So we need to show that our team had the superior position, that we had basically that we had the morally stronger point of view. We need to highlight the unique benefits and advantages of agreeing with the motion, essentially. And we need to show how our team's solutions provide a better outcome than disagreeing with the motion. We need to reinforce the importance of agreeing with the motion. We need to explain the positive impact that agreeing with the motion will have. And we need to really emphasize how agreeing with the motion, again, will have a better impact on the world than disagreeing with it. We need to address how easily that we could adopt whatever it is by agreeing with the motion. So if it's if the motion is, trying to think of a good example here. I'll just use this one. So we need to acknowledge any legitimate concerns raised by the negative team regarding the practicality of transitioning to renewable energy. So anything that they say, like it's going to be very expensive, or it's new technology, so the bugs aren't worked out yet. It might break down, it might this, it might that. We need to address those concerns and say, well, here are our solutions to these problems. And we need to offer evidence and expert opinions that support the feasibility and cost effectiveness of renewable energy implementation. So we need to offer, again, the evidence to show just how easy and just how much money we can save in the long run, or just how many benefits there will be to agreeing with the motion. We need to anticipate counter arguments from the final speaker, and we need to show that our team is prepared to counter any last minute challenges from the negative team. So just shut down any challenges coming from the opposing team. We need to summarize the key points made in the speech and the entire affirmative team's case. We need to just remind everybody about our stance on the motion and its importance for the future. And we need to urge the audience and the judges to support the affirmative team's position and agree with the motion with us. Okay, so we'll have time for one more speech. And then what I'll do is if you guys all want to leave after this speech, I'm just going to go ahead and just speak the final one on the recording so that you'll at least be able to have a copy of it to go back to watch. So Stella, can you please read this example speech for the third proposition speaker?
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, distinguished judges and respected opponents, as the third speaker of the affirmative team, I rise to conclude our compelling case in support of the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significantly increased. Throughout this debate, we have presented a conservative and robust argument in favor of transition to renewable energy sources. Allow me to reinforce our key points and address that concerns raised by the negative team. Firstly, we firmly establish that climate change is an imminent threat that demands immediate action. The overwhelming significant consensus supports the link between human activities and global warming by significantly increasing the use of renewable energy. We can significantly reduce greenhouse gas emissions, slow down the pace of climate change, and protect our planet for future generations. Addressing the negative team claim about the repeatability of renewable energy, we acknowledge that some challenges exist. However, technological advantages and innovative solutions are already addressing these concerns. Grid modernization, energy storage technologies, and smart energy management systems are overcoming the intermittency of renewables and ensuring
a stable energy supply. Furthermore, the negative team argued that the translation to Reforce would introduce the news bottle upfront cost, while it is true that the internal anti-basement might be significant, we must consider the long-term benefits and the cost of inefficient. Failing to address climate change will lead far more devastating economic conclusions, including increased extreme weather events, rising sea levels, and disruptions to food and water supplies. In response to the negative team's concerns about job losings in traditional energy sectors, we recognize the importance of a just and inclusive translation. Governments and business can invest in renewable energy sector itself offers significant jobs opportunities, and research suggests that clean energy investments create more jobs per dollar indicates than fossil fuels industries. Furthermore, we cannot afford to ignore the global consensus and commitments to combat climate change. The Paris Agreement and other international accords underscore the urgency of adopting renewable energy solutions. Experiencing renewable energy demonstrates our commitment to a sustainable future and positions us as leaders in the global fight against climate change. In conclusion, the affirmative team have presented a compelling case that emphasizes the Ukraine's need for a shift towards renewable energy sources by significantly increasing the use of renewables. We can combat climate change, ensure energy security, create economic opportunities, and protect the environment for generations to come. I urge the esteemed judges and audience to stand with the affirmative team in supporting this current motto. Together, we can pave a way for a greener, cleaner, and more sustainable future. Thank you.
Well done, Stella. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and read out the third opposition speakers' points and their speech. Those of you that would like to stick around and watch that, you can. But if you need to go or you'd like to go and get lunch, then you can also do that. You can just check out the recording. You can just check out the recording online once it's been posted. The final thing I'd like to say about today is I saw two very interesting techniques for delivering the speech. And at this stage in class, neither one of them is wrong. It's just, I suppose, how you learn and approach these things best. So the first approach I saw was sacrificing the quality of the presentation to make sure you pronounced all the words correctly. And the other technique that I saw was sacrificing the pronunciation of some words to keep a higher quality of presentation. Now, neither of those is wrong at this stage. Obviously, we want to work towards making sure we do both of those very well. But I just wanted to bring that to your attention so that you're aware of which strategy you may use at this point and which strategy what you need to work towards. So yeah, very good, guys. I'm very impressed with reading those speeches, and I'm going to post these documents in your Zalo group as well after class. I'm also going to post your next class debate topic. So I've decided to push that to next Tuesday instead of this Thursday. And that debate will be our final assessment for this class, because that'll be our last lesson together. So yeah, make sure you guys study these documents, really write a good, well-formatted speech, and practice delivering your speech so you're confident in both your delivery and your pronunciation of the words. Oh my goodness. Yeah, so if you guys need to leave to go and get lunch or do something, that's fine. I'm just going to continue to deliver this third speech for the opposition team. So you guys will have it on a recording to come back to, and then I'll post your debate topic, your debate teams, and everything you need to know. So to those of you that need to leave now, thank you very much for your attention today. I know we've covered a lot, but this will help you help make you much better debaters in the end. And to those of you that are going to stick around, let's continue. Hey, that's not fair. I can't understand Vietnamese or these other languages that you've posted. I see something in Arabic, I think. Then I see another language I don't recognize. That's not fair. I'll start teaching this.
The first
It's what?
is Arabic and the second is France.
Teacher,
So Arabic. That's not French, that's Vietnamese.
teacher,
Yes.
this lesson I just sit like a statue.
If I could click this, what will
Because you don't really ask me.
Would you like to read the final speech?
Yeah, I want to.
Okay, well, you can read the final speech, Amy.
This is the final speech.
Well, these are the points that we need to include in the speech, but when we get down to this part here, then you can read. I'll let you know when you can read.
Okay.
Okay, so the third and final opposition speaker, guys, good strong introduction. We need to greet the audience, the judges, and acknowledge the opposing team. Again, remind the audience of the motion and our team's position. And we need to summarize the key arguments presented by the first two members of our team. We need to reinforce and summarize the arguments. We need to address the affirmative team's arguments. So arguments made by the other team in their speeches, and offer clear rebuttals to refute their points. We need to demonstrate how the negative team's case remains strong despite the challenges from the proposition team. We need to highlight the advantages of our team's position. So we need to show that we have the superior, like the morally superior, it's a more right and better thing to do to agree with us. we need to illustrate the problems and the risks of agreeing with our opponents and agreeing with the motion. And we need to explain how our solutions will provide better solutions to the problems. We need to talk about the impact of, so we need to talk about the impact that the motion will have on, be it the country, the planet, our community. We also need to explain the potential consequences of adopting the motion. So what's going to go wrong if you agree with the proposition team? That's what we need to talk about. And we need to emphasize how our team's approach, just in general, is a better, smarter, more safer approach to the motion. So we also need to address how practical is it? So acknowledging the value of, so we need to acknowledge the value of accepting the motion, but we also need to talk about the challenges that accepting the motion will bring. We need to offer evidence that supports bring evidence that supports the problems of, or shows the problems of agreeing with the motion. And we need to argue for a better solution. We need to anticipate and present counter arguments for the third affirmative speaker. And we need to show that our team is prepared to counter any last-minute challenges from the affirmative team. We need to conclude and summarize the key points made in our entire case through all three speakers. And we need to remind everyone what our stance is on the motion and the importance of disagreeing with the motion. Why is it important to believe our point of view? I was going to say, you look different there for a second, Rio. Didn't recognize you. And we also need to urge the audience and the judges to support our team's point of view and reject the motion. Okay, Amy, whenever you're ready.
Okay. Ladies and gentlemen, esteemed judges and worthy opponents, as the third speaker of the negative team, I rise to conclude our strong case against the motion that the use of renewable energy sources should be significant. Can you read it first?
Significantly?
It's so hard.
Significantly?
Significantly
Good.
increased. Throughout this debate, we have presented a balanced and pragmatic approach to address the global energy challenges. Allow me to reinforce our key points and address the arguments put forth of the affirmative team. The affirmative team has rightly
Emphasized
the urgency of combating climate change. We share their concern for the environment and future generations. However, our concession lies in the exclusive focus on renewable energy sources. While renewables play a crucial role in a sustainable energy future, they cannot be the sole solution our energy needs. Addressing the affirmative teams claim that renewable energy can reliable meets our demands. We acknowledge the progress that made in energy storage and grid technologies. However, the challenge is
Intermittency. Very good.
remains, especially in regions with limited renewable resources. A sudden and drastic transition to renewables could lead to energy shortages and grid instability, risking economic disruptions and compromising energy
Compromising.
security. Furthermore, we must consider the economic implications of a rapid transition to renewables. The negative team believes in a balanced energy strategy that supports traditional energy sectors while gradually integrating cleaner alternatives. Abruptly phasing out fossil fuels could lead to job losses and economic downturns in regions heavily reliant on these industries. Adjust and
Inclusive.
transition must be prioritized to protect livelihoods and avoid social upheaval. Addressing the formative team's concerns about the environmental impact of traditional energy sources, we recognize the need for responsible energy production. The negative team advocates for continued advancements in clean technologies like carbon capture and storage, which can significantly reduce emissions from fossil fuel-based power plants. A balanced approach allows us to address environmental concerns without dismissing the practical challenges of transitioning entirely to renewables. Moreover, the negative team international commitments to reduce emissions and protect the environment. However, we believe that achieving these goals requires a comprehensive energy strategy that includes a mix of energy sources, allowing us to meet energy demands sustainable while minimizing adverse economic impacts. In conclusion, the negative team has presented a practical and balanced case that prioritizes energy security, economic stability, and environmental responsibility. While we appreciate the benefits of renewable energy, we urge the audience and esteemed judges to consider the feasibility of significantly increasing the use of renewables without jeopardizing other essential aspects of our energy system. And together, we can forge a sustainable energy future that combines cleaner technologies and responsible resource management. Thank you.
Very good job, Amy. Very good. So I'm going to go ahead and post these documents in your Zalo group. So make sure you have a good read of them and really understand what is expected of these speeches. Because if you would like to participate in any debating competitions, speeches like that are what's going to be expected. So thank you very much for your attention, guys. You've done great. I think Tom's already left to go and get some lunch. So I'll let the rest of you go and get lunch as well and go do whatever you've got to do. Have a wonderful day, everyone. I'll see you on Thursday. And
Goodbye, teacher.
goodbye. Goodbye and happy birthday again, John. Hope you have a good rest of your day.
Happy birthday to you.
Bye-bye.
Happy birthday
Day
to you.
Happy
Happy
birthday,
birthday.
dear
Happy birthday
John.
to you.
Happy birthday to you.
Happy birthday, teacher.
Ăn đi, ăn đi.
See you, everybody.
Ăn liên tục đi.
Happy birthday.